What if a simple act of kindness changed your life forever? Liam, a millionaire architect, was late for a crucial meeting when he saw a woman drenched in the rain, holding a baby. Without thinking twice, he did the unthinkable. He gave her the key to his old house and left. But what seemed like just a gesture of compassion triggered a series of events he could never have predicted. Long-buried secrets would come to light, and that stranger would end up becoming the key to a shocking revelation. What Liam didn't know was that by opening a door for her, he was about to open a door to his own past. Yes, I know I'm late. If I could double time, I'd be there already. Liam was talking on the phone as he ran to the car. His voice carried a mixture of impatience and tiredness. What? The coffee spilled on the documents? Great. What a wonderful way to start the day. The driver, already used to Liam's morning dramas, held back a discreet laugh as he opened the car door. As soon as Liam entered, the rain began to fall heavily. "The traffic is terrible, sir," the driver informed, looking in the rearview mirror. "Obviously, today is one of those days that the universe decides to test my patience." Liam threw his head back, closing his eyes for a moment. The city passed in blurred flashes outside the car window. People were running quickly, trying to escape the rain. It was then that Liam saw something that made him sit up straighter. A woman holding a baby, huddled under a narrow awning. The child cried softly, and the woman tried, unsuccessfully, to cover him with a thin, worn-out coat. "Stop the car!" The driver looked at him in the mirror. "Are you sure? Your suit costs more than my car." "Any problem with my suit can be solved with money, but that baby might not be so lucky." Liam opened the door without waiting for a response and went to the woman, being immediately hit by the rain. The cold wind cut into his skin, but he ignored the discomfort. "Hey, are you okay?" The woman raised her eyes in fright. His face was pale, his hair stuck to his forehead. We just need to wait for the rain to pass." His voice shook. "Wait for the rain to stop?" Liam looked around. "And when next time comes, will you and the baby stay here forever?" She bit her lip, not knowing how to respond. Liam sighed and ran a hand through his wet hair. "Look, I have an empty house. It's not far from here. You can stay there for a while." The woman's eyes widened. "Are you kidding?" "I'm not known for my sense of humor." He took a set of keys out of his pocket and handed it to her. "There's food, hot water and beds. Go before you get pneumonia." She hesitated. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I can," he shrugged, "and because I'd be a terrible human being if I didn't." The woman looked at the key, then at him, then at the rain. Thank you," she whispered, taking the keys with trembling fingers. Liam nodded. "My driver will take you." He turned and ran back to the car, now completely soaked. As soon as he got in, the driver gave him an amused look. "I take it that means you want hot coffee at the meeting." "I want it, and a new umbrella." Liam leaned back in the seat and looked outside. As the car started, he saw in the rearview mirror the woman holding the key tightly. He didn't know why he had done that, but something inside him said it had been the right thing to do. Clara clutched the key in her hand as the car drove through the wet city. The rain had eased, but his mind was still in a storm. It was surreal to be there, in a luxurious car, being taken to a house that wasn't yours, by a man you barely knew. She looked at the sleeping baby on her chest, feeling tiredness weighing down her shoulders. The driver cleared his throat, watching her in the rearview mirror. "First time someone has received a house out of nowhere?" Clara laughed, still in disbelief. "Does he do this often? Give houses? No. But skipping important meetings to help strangers? Yes. Mr. Liam has a peculiar way of dealing with life." Clara sighed, looking at the key. "Am I a goner then?" The driver smiled. "Maybe I was just unlucky, but if he gave you that chance, he must have seen something in you." The car stopped in front of a modest but well-kept house. Clara hesitated. "Are you sure I can stay here? Mr. Liam doesn't give lip service to things. He's a little quirky, but he's a man of his word." Clara took a deep breath, opened the door and entered. The house smelled of old wood and coffee. But before he could feel even the slightest bit comfortable, he heard a voice coming from the room. "Finally!" She turned around, startled, and found a grey-haired man sitting on the couch, watching television with a bowl of popcorn on his lap. "Who are you?" Clara asked, eyes widening. The old man raised an eyebrow. "I ask. This house has been mine for years, and suddenly a girl appears, soaking wet with a baby. Was I promoted to manager without warning?" Clara opened and closed her mouth a few times, trying to understand. "Are you Liam's father?" "Ah, so at least you know my son's name. Better than nothing. And this baby? Did it come in the package?" She felt uncomfortable, but the old man's playful tone made her relax a little. "His name is Oliver." The man grabbed another handful of popcorn. "So now there are 3 of us. I hope you like Mexican soap operas." Clara blinked in surprise. "You don't mind?" He pointed to the kitchen. "There's soup on the stove and blankets in the closet. Try to get warm before I have to call Liam and tell him he turned the house into a shelter." Clara hesitated, but couldn't resist the smell of hot food. She sat at the table while the man took a towel and handed it to her. "I'm not that bad, you see." She smiled. "Thank you. What should I call you?" "You can call me Noah, or that grumpy man who watches soap operas." She laughed for the first time in a long time. The next morning, Liam was reviewing contracts when the phone rang. "Yes, if I'm going to ask about the coffee-stained documents, I'll already—" "Mr. Liam, it's about your father." He froze. "What happened?" "There was an emergency. Your father had a stroke." Liam jumped out of his chair. "Where is he?" "In the hospital. The girl who was in the house called the ambulance in time." He didn't hear anything else. He just took the car keys and drove like crazy to the hospital. When he arrived, he found Clara sitting in the waiting room. She stood up when she saw him. "He is stable." Liam ran his hands over his face, exhaling the breath he hadn't even realized he was holding. "What happened?" "He started to feel sick. I called the ambulance and stayed with him until they arrived." Liam felt a tightness in his chest. "If you weren't there..." Clara lowered her head. "He kept talking about how you would hate to see him in a hospital. I think he would rather be kidnapped by aliens." Liam laughed, even though his throat was dry. "It makes sense. He always had a knack for being stubborn." Clara smiled, but there was something in her eyes that caught his attention, a deep tiredness, something that went beyond the last few hours. "Are you well?" he asked. She hesitated. "I think so." Liam sighed. "You saved his life." Clara shrugged. "He gave me soup and a roof over his head. I thought it was fair to balance things." Liam laughed again, unable to help himself. "I think my dad finally found someone as hard-headed as him." Clara raised an eyebrow. "Does this mean I'm officially part of the grumpy club? If my dad likes you, you're already part of the family." The two were silent for a moment, until Liam cleared his throat. "I really don't know how to thank you." "Well," Clara smiled, "you already gave me a home." Liam laughed, feeling for the first time in a long time that maybe he had done something right. Liam entered the hospital room and found Noah awake, looking impatient. The heart monitor next to the bed beeped at regular intervals, and the IV was attached to his arm. As soon as he saw him, Noah snorted. "Shouldn't you be at work?" Liam crossed his arms and let out a sigh. "Shouldn't you be home, healthy, and watching your soap operas?" Noah gave a half smile. "I tried, but fate decided to spice up my day." He looked at Clara, who was sitting on the side of the bed, holding Oliver. "This girl saved my skin. I think I owe you one." Clara shook her head. "You don't owe me anything." "Nonsense. In my time, When someone saved your life, you at least offered them dinner, but since I'm stuck in this bed, I guess I'll have to settle for coffee." Liam laughed and looked at Clara. "You know what? Coffee is on me." A few hours later, doctors confirmed that Noah would recover, but would need rest and supervision. Liam looked at Clara as they left the hospital. "I was thinking, don't you want to move into my house? I say, once and for all." Clara stopped in the middle of the parking lot. "What?" "Look, you were already at my father's house. He likes you. Oliver likes you. I like not worrying about whether my dad is okay all the time." Liam stuffed his hands in his pockets. "And honestly, I think it would be good for all of us." Clara blinked a few times, trying to process. "Are you offering me a house? Again?" Liam laughed. "Perhaps. Or just a place where you don't have to worry about rain and cold." She looked at Oliver, who was sleeping in the stroller. "I don't want to be a burden to anyone. If it were a burden, I wouldn't be insisting. What do you say?" She took a deep breath and nodded. "All good." Dizzy. The following week, Clara was already settled in Liam's house, and Noah seemed to have fun with the new company. The old man spent hours telling stories about the past, while Clara, curious, listened to every detail. "So, you built this house?" Clara asked one night, observing the large bookshelf in the living room. Noah nodded. "Well, me and my son. Liam has always been passionate about architecture. I picked up magazines when I was little and said that one day I would build skyscrapers." Clara looked at Liam, who was sitting in the armchair reviewing some papers. "And you did it?" Liam looked at her and smiled. "Not a skyscraper yet, but I'm on my way." "And he was a good helper." Noah let out a laugh. "Good?" He hammered his own finger 3 times in a row and blamed it on the nails. Clara held back her laughter, but failed miserably. Liam rolled his eyes. "It's great to have my misfortune as entertainment." The days passed, and Clara began to feel part of the house. She helped Noah, took care of Oliver, and little by little began to study the architecture books that Liam left scattered around the room. One night, while reviewing projects at the dinner table, Liam noticed Clara looking at one of his drawings. "Do you like architecture?" he asked. She looked up hesitantly. "I always liked building things, but I never had the chance to study." Liam was thoughtful. "Maybe it's time to change that." Clara frowned. "What do you mean?" "It means maybe I can help you get started." He smiled. "But please, no hammering your fingers." She laughed. "No promises." Liam felt like, for the first time in years, his house was full of life again. Liam adjusted his tie in front of the mirror and let out a sigh. He never liked formal dinners, but Helena was one of the most influential people in the industry, and refusing an invitation from her would be practically professional suicide. "Are you ready?" Clara appeared at the bedroom door, adjusting the dress Liam had bought for her. He smiled when he saw her. "You look amazing." She rolled her eyes but blushed slightly. "I don't think I've ever been so well dressed in my life. It makes me seem like, I don't know, like someone who belongs in this world." Liam took the keys and walked over to her. "You belong wherever you want, Clara." The two left and headed to Helena's house. When they arrived, Clara was impressed by the sophistication of the place. The interior was impeccable, decorated with artwork and furniture that looked like it came out of a design magazine. Helena received them with a polite smile and an appraising look. "Liam, always punctual, and you must be Clara." Clara nodded, feeling a little uncomfortable under the woman's penetrating gaze. The dinner went smoothly at first, with conversations about architecture and business. But at a certain moment, Helena fixed her eyes on Clara with an intensity that made Liam raise an eyebrow. "Tell me, Clara, what was your father's name?" Clara hesitated, surprised by the question. "Why?" Helena placed her fork next to her plate. "Please, just tell me." Clara exchanged a look with Liam before responding. "Gustavo, but he was never exactly a father to me." Helena turned pale. Liam noticed the immediate change in the woman's expression. "Helena, what happened?" She got up and walked over to a bookshelf, picking up a photo album. When he opened it to the right page, he turned the book towards Clara. It was an old photo, yellowed with age. A much younger woman held a baby in her arms, with a man at her side. Clara stared at the image. His heart sped up. "It can't be." Helena held the arm of the chair tightly. "Clara, this man, Gustavo, he took you from me." Liam looked from Clara to Helena, without understanding. "Wait, what?" Helena's eyes were teary. "He was my husband. When Clara was born, he disappeared with her. I spent years searching, hiring detectives, but I never found a single clue. And now you're here, sitting in front of me." The silence was suffocating. Clara closed her eyes for a moment, trying to process. "That doesn't make sense." Helena swallowed. "I understand it's a lot to take in, but I never stopped looking for you." Liam held Clara's hand, which was cold. She took a deep breath before looking at Helena. "I don't know what to say." Helena smiled sadly. "Just let me prove I'm telling the truth." Clara walked back and forth in the living room, trying to absorb everything Helena had revealed. Your mother, the woman she spent her life believing didn't exist, was right there in front of her, her eyes full of emotion and regret. Liam watched in silence, not wanting to interfere in the moment. He knew Clara needed to process this alone. Helena took a deep breath. "I know I can't make up for lost time, but if there's any chance we can reconnect, I want to try." Clara stared at Helena for a long moment. The emotions on his face changed every second: shock, anger, sadness. But finally, she let out a sigh and nodded. "I don't know how to go from here, but I also don't want to ignore it." Helena smiled with teary eyes. "That's already more than I could ask for." The following weeks were intense. Helena did everything she could to get closer to Clara and Oliver, and little by little, Clara began to accept that new reality. More than that, Helena wanted to help her achieve her dreams. One night, while Clara was putting Oliver to sleep, Helena handed her an envelope. "What is that?" Clara asked, suspicious. "Your future." Clara opened it and found an acceptance letter to one of the best architecture schools in the country. "I know that architecture has always been a dream of yours. Now you can make it a reality." Clara felt her eyes fill with tears. "This is crazy." "No, it's crazy if you don't believe in your own talent." Liam appeared in the doorway, smiling. "I always said you could do something amazing." Clara looked at the two, feeling a surge of gratitude and hope. Time passed, and the big graduation day arrived. Clara took the stage, holding the diploma, and looked at the audience. There were the three people who changed his life: Liam, Noah, and Helena. She took the microphone, took a deep breath, and smiled. "Today I am here not only because of my efforts, but because of the support of incredible people. My son, who gave me the strength to continue. My father, Noah, who taught me that family is more than blood. My best friend, Liam, who never doubted me." She found Helena in the crowd. "And my mother, Helena, who gave me not only a home, but a second chance to be a daughter." Helena put her hands to her face, emotional. When the ceremony ended, Clara ran to them. Helena hugged her tightly. "You called me Mom," Clara smiled. "Because that's what you are." Liam cleared his throat. "I don't want to interrupt the exciting moment, but does anyone want dinner? Because I'm starving." Noah laughed. "For once you said something sensible." They laughed together, like the family they had become. Clara looked at Liam and smiled. "I think we finally found our home."